Welcome back to Switch Top. The Switch 2 games are here. Some of them are good, and some of them are genuinely great. Here are 15 you should be playing right now. Sektori is a fast-paced, twin-stick shooter that feels like pure arcade chaos in the best way possible. You control a small ship while fighting through massive waves of enemies filling the screen with bullets, explosions, and non-stop movement. But the game stays smooth and responsive even during its most intense moments. The core gameplay is simple to learn since movement and aiming are handled separately, but mastering the mechanics takes real skill because enemy patterns become increasingly aggressive later on. One of the most satisfying mechanics is the strike dash, which lets you burst through enemies with explosive attacks, and skilled players can chain these strikes together for huge combos and score multipliers. Between stages, you unlock upgrades like stronger weapons, shields, missiles, and mobility boosts that can completely change your build each run. Mouse PI for Hire drops you into Mouseburg, a corrupt 1930s noir city full of crooked cops and organized crime, populated entirely by anthropomorphic rodents. You play as Jack Pepper, a war veteran turned private detective voiced by Troy Baker. An old associate goes missing, and what starts as a routine case pulls you into layers of political corruption and underground conspiracy. It's a first-person shooter styled like a classic boomer shooter, wrapped in hand-drawn rubber hose animation straight out of 1930s cartoons. The combat runs on arena battles. You enter an area, waves of enemies flood in, and you work through a growing arsenal of increasingly weird guns and gadgets. The world is non-linear across multiple districts, including docks, sewers, and a film studio, with minigames and collectibles scattered throughout. The story runs about 11 hours, and the writing earns its noir tone without winking at the camera too much. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut brings one of the best entries in the entire Yakuza series to Switch 2. Now, with new content and improvements built on top of an already exceptional game. Set in 1988 Japan during the economic bubble era, you alternate between two protagonists, Kazuma Kiryu, a young Yakuza framed for a murder in Tokyo's Kamurocho district, and Goro Majima, a one-eyed cabaret club manager in Osaka, trying to claw his way back into the criminal world. Both stories run parallel and interweave in ways that hit hard. Combat is real-time brawling. Kiryu has 3 fighting styles, Majima has 4, and switching between them based on the situation is satisfying every single time. But the game is as much about side content as it is about fighting. Real estate empire building, cabaret management, karaoke, pocket circuit racing, and side stories that range from absurdly funny to genuinely moving. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a proper Indiana Jones game, one that actually feels like the movies. Set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, Indy gets pulled into a global conspiracy involving a series of ancient sites aligned along a massive geographic pattern. The trail takes him across multiple countries, through temples, catacombs, and enemy-held compounds, piecing together a mystery tied to a legendary power. The gameplay is first-person action-adventure, with a heavy emphasis on exploration and environmental puzzle solving. Indy's whip lets him swing across gaps, disarm enemies, and interact with the environment in ways that feel authentic to the character. Fistfights are encouraged over shooting. The game rewards creativity and improvisation with objects you find around you. There's a solid amount of optional side content woven into each location, and the writing captures the humor and personality of the films without overplaying it. Two legendary RPGs, rebuilt with the same gorgeous HD 2D visual treatment that made Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy look so stunning. Pixel characters set in richly lit, beautifully rendered 3D worlds. Dragon Quest I puts you in the shoes of the descendant of the legendary hero Erdrick, tasked alone with defeating the Dragon Lord and restoring peace to the kingdom of Alefgard. It's lean and pure, a single hero, a linear quest, and an enduring charm that the remake elevates beautifully. Dragon Quest II expands significantly, giving you a party of 3 royal descendants from different kingdoms, a much larger world to explore, and a considerably harder challenge that still holds up. Both games preserve the warm, deliberate pacing the series has always carried. No rush, just discovery and adventure. The remakes add quality of life features without stripping out what made the originals feel timeless. Mario Kart World is the most ambitious Mario Kart game Nintendo has ever shipped, and it's built around one massive, connected open world, rather than isolated cup tracks. The entire map is one seamless environment that pulls locations and settings from across the Mario universe. You race through them, between them, and around them in ways that fundamentally change how the game feels to play. New driving mechanics like wall riding and rail grinding add a layer of skill expression beyond item luck. The roster includes classic characters alongside faces from Nintendo history that no one expected to see sitting in a cart. The free roam mode lets you cruise the overworld between races at your own pace, which is genuinely calming and fun. Grand Prix, battle mode, and online multiplayer are all present and expanded. The game runs at 60 frames per second docked and looks exceptional on Switch 2 hardware.
And in this Mario Kart game, you can go off the racetrack and drive virtually everywhere in this world.
Octopath Traveler 0 is a prequel to the original game, set in the same world of Orstera, and it's the strongest entry in the series to date. For the first time ever, you create your own protagonist, customizing appearance, voice, and personality, which anchors all the story arcs in a more personal way than previous entries managed. Your hometown of Wishvale is destroyed by 3 powerful villains, and you set out across Orstera to take them down and rebuild what was lost. Town building is a new pillar. As you recruit companions and complete story events, Wishvale grows and gains new residents, giving you a home base that evolves throughout your journey. Combat scales up to 8 party members simultaneously, which makes encounters far richer than any previous Octopath game. The break and boost system returns. Weaken enemy defenses to stagger them, then unleash boosted abilities for maximum damage.
Engage in new battles with parties of up to 8 characters.
We're in this together. Please and thank you!
Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is the third version of one of the most sprawling Dragon Quest adventures ever made, and this time it comes with a completely new art style that stands apart from everything else in the genre. Real-world models, dolls, and handcrafted sets were built and scanned to create a unique diorama aesthetic. Every environment has a warm, tactile, almost handmade look that's genuinely beautiful. The story drops you into a world where your small island appears to be the only land left in existence. Tablet fragments unlock portals to the past lost civilizations, sealed away by a malevolent force, and you travel through time to solve each one's crisis and restore it to the present. Each island is a self-contained narrative vignette with its own characters and problems. The vocation system lets you assign and master classes, unlock perks unique to each one, and mix abilities between jobs.
I have been defeated. And by
Pragmata is Capcom's first brand new IP in years, developed by a newer team within the studio, and it arrived in April 2026 as one of the most mechanically inventive third-person action games in memory. You play as Hugh, a spacefarer sent to investigate a silent lunar research facility, who survives a devastating accident and finds Diana, a young android wandering the halls of a station now controlled by a rogue AI. Together, they fight to escape the moon. The combat system is the heart of it. Hugh carries firearms and a jetpack for aerial movement and dodging, but robots are nearly impervious to direct gunfire. Diana hacks into their defenses through real-time grid puzzles. You guide a cursor through an obstacle grid simultaneously, while Hugh avoids getting shot. When Diana cracks through the armor and exposes a weak point, Hugh fires. These two layers running at the same time create a tight, demanding loop that never wears out.
What the heck was that? By moving the cursor through panels toward the green goal, you can hack the enemy bots.
There's no time to explain. Shoot now!
Once they're weak,
Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 is a genuine technical achievement. You play as V, a mercenary in Night City, a massive, dense, neon-lit megalopolis built on corporate control and street-level survival, who ends up with an experimental chip in their head carrying the consciousness of a deceased rock legend named Johnny Silverhand. The chip starts overriding who V is, and the story of trying to survive that process while navigating Night City's complex web of factions and power structures is deeply compelling. The open world is packed with side content as rich as the main missions. Gigs, character storylines, faction quests, and the RPG build system is genuinely flexible. You can go all in on hacking and take down enemies without firing a shot, build for raw combat with guns and cyberware, or play a stealthy netrunner who ghosts through missions entirely. The Ultimate Edition includes the Phantom Liberty expansion, widely considered the game's best content.
This does not look good.
Stop your vehicle immediately.
Let's get out of here. On it.
Blue Prince is one of those games where the less you know going in, the better. So this is intentionally kept brief. You inherit an estate called Mount Holly from a deceased relative, but the inheritance only completes once you find the legendary 46th room, a room that doesn't exist in the manor's 45-room layout. The manor resets every day. Each time you step through a door, you choose what room appears behind it from a selection of blueprints. A step limit governs how far you can get each run before the day ends, and everything resets, except for permanent upgrades and knowledge that carry over. The story emerges through handwritten notes, journals, and environmental clues scattered throughout the manor, slowly building into something much bigger than finding a missing room. Blue Prince won Best Indie Game at the Game Awards 2025 and has reviewers logging 80+ hours without feeling done. Donkey Kong Bananza is the first 3D DK game since Donkey Kong 64, and it's one of the most physically satisfying platformers Nintendo has ever made. When Voidco steals the Banandium gems from the mine where DK works, a vortex swallows him and drops him into the underground world beneath the planet's surface. There he meets Pauline, a 13-year-old girl with a singing voice powerful enough to shatter rock. And together, they head toward the planet core, where any wish can be granted. DK can punch through nearly every surface in the game, carve tunnels with his fists, rip chunks of terrain off and throw them, pound straight down through the ground. Destruction is the whole point. The more you smash, the more secrets open up. Pauline's singing powers up Bananza transformations, animal forms that give DK abilities like super strength, high speed on water, or flight. Each underground layer is a distinct biome with its own inhabitants, hazards, and visual identity.
Punch. Smash enemies, walls, the ground, and most things you can.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This is the first chapter of a multi-part retelling of Final Fantasy VII set entirely within the industrial city of Midgar. Cloud Strife, a mercenary and former member of Shinra's elite soldier program, takes a job with an eco-terrorist group called Avalanche, who are fighting against the Shinra Corporation's practice of draining the planet's life energy. What the remake does is take the roughly 8-hour Midgar section of the original 1997 game and expand it into a full 40-hour experience, deepening side characters, adding new story threads, and building out the world in substantial ways. Combat is real-time action. You switch between party members on the fly, each with distinct fighting styles, building up ATB gauges to spend on abilities and magic. A stagger system lets you break enemy defenses for massive burst damage windows. The Intergrade version adds the Intermission episode, a separate storyline starring Yuffie. Resident Evil Requiem sets a new standard for what survival horror can feel like in 2026. Set roughly 28 years after the destruction of Raccoon City, the game follows Grace Ashcroft, an introverted FBI analyst with a direct personal connection to that disaster. Her mother, a journalist who survived the original Raccoon City outbreak, was later found murdered in the Wrenwood Hotel. When a body showing signs of an unknown biological infection surfaces in that same hotel, Grace is sent to investigate, and the case quickly spirals into something much larger than a routine inquiry. Leon S. Kennedy runs a parallel investigation with his own objectives, and his gameplay skews more action-heavy. Grace's sections lean into tension, resource management, puzzle solving, and survival. The game introduces free switchable first and third-person perspective for the first time in the mainline series, giving you control over how you face every encounter. Pokémon Pokopia became impossible to find on shelves within days of launch, and after spending time with it, it's completely understandable why. You play as a Ditto who has transformed into a human-like form, waking up in a barren, withered world where all the humans have vanished and Pokémon are nowhere to be found. The only other presence is a lone Tangrowth who acts as your guide, wise enough to know what humans need, even without being one himself. Your goal is to restore this desolate land from scratch. You collect resources, craft furniture and buildings, tend to the environment, and slowly attract Pokémon back to the world you're rebuilding for them. As each Pokémon arrives, they can teach you their moves. Bulbasaur's leafage to grow plants, Lapras's surf to cross water, which then become tools to further reshape the land. That's 15 games covering almost everything the Switch 2 has shown it can do so far. The library's only going to grow from here. Drop a comment with what you're already playing or what I should have ranked higher. Thanks for watching.